Hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. So in this video I want to talk about a criminally massively underrated book. It's called Eggshells by Caitriona Lally. Caitriona Lally is an Irish writer, and Eggshells is about this young woman who lives in Dublin, Ireland, and this young woman named Vivian, she has an eccentric personality. She lives in a house inherited from her great aunt, but that's not really important. The important thing is that she's eccentric. She doesn't like to go out. She doesn't really like to socialize. She doesn't care so much about social conventions. When she does go out, she doesn't talk a lot, and when she does talk, she would say all the things that would sort of that other people would find strange. The main thing about Vivian is that she believes that she is a changeling, and or rather, she was led to believe that she were a changeling, and the whole novel is pretty much about how Vivian explores different places around Dublin just to find a way or a portal to go back to her original world. So another thing that happens in this book is how Vivian finds a friend by setting up an advertisement. She wants to find a friend named Penelope, which is oddly specific. And no spoilers, she actually does find a friend named Penelope. And this novel would also explore that relationship, and how it affects Vivian's life. So yeah, two main things about this book: her friendship with this random person named Penelope, and also her quest to find a portal to go back to her original world because she believes she's a changeling. I think that we can all agree that this book gives us this kind of quirky, eccentric, unusual female character. And I'm just gonna say that this book is much, much more than that. This book has 24 chapters, and most of those chapters we are actually being treated with how quirky this character of Vivian is, and I'm gonna say it is going to get a little bit tiresome, right? Because you would eventually see that Vivian is someone who likes a sense of security, like most of us, but she likes it more. She keeps lists of things, so there are a lot of lists in this book, lists in the form of paragraphs. And maybe you don't know this about me, or maybe you do, but I hate lists in books. However, in this book, it has the opposite effect. I loved how Vivian just pretty much has a lot of lists in most of the chapters. She would keep lists of things that belong to a particular category, list of dessert name, or list of butterfly names, for example, or animal names, or list of place names and stuff. You get a lot of those things, and it shows us a lot about her personality and what she likes. She likes a certain sense of safety. At the same time, like I said, she doesn't care about social conventions. And so we see also a lot of her interaction with people that would usually result in those people being driven away from her. And this thing happens repeatedly in this book, such a way that you might find it a bit too repetitious, a bit too tiring. Right? But I feel that this book also has another thing that it inserts into its storyline, and that is Vivian's history, which is not clearly shown but heavily implied. And as you learn more about Vivian, as you spend more time with Vivian and her shenanigans, eventually, and this is my experience, all of those things, all of the strange things, the quirky things that she does would feel differently when you learn more about what has happened to her. Because this book is basically a book about trauma, and it's about recovery. And I think that this is a book, this book is a great example of how you can write trauma or a storyline with trauma without necessarily portray the trauma or the origin of the trauma itself, while still being able to produce a certain effects in readers. You don't have to write something graphically horrible in order to make readers feel something. And so, as I read all of the strange things that Vivian does when she goes to the supermarket, when she goes shopping, when she goes out and interacts with people and asks those strange random questions, eventually I sort of feel sad for her, because there is a reason why she does those things. You're basically seeing this character repeatedly doing things that are just pretty much coping mechanisms. This entire book, most of it just pretty much portrays a character coping with things. And I feel that that is the strong point of this book. It presents us this character who is seemingly quirky and eccentric, but actually it is able to balance that with this dark undertones that it does not graphically show, but only implies. And it does so in this kind of very deftly, or rather, Vivian herself would say deftfully. I don't know, if you've read this book, you might find that funny. I don't know. Anyway, this book is also, this book is also very funny. But its humor also has that bittersweet or even sad undertones to it. The more you learn about who Vivian was before the story starts, what happened to Vivian, and ultimately this book is about how Vivian overcome certain things. And this book actually reminds me of two other books which are considerably more commercially successful. One is Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and another one is Inconvenient Storewoman by Sayaka Murata. Those two books also feature characters who are so-called quirky and eccentric. And I realized that there's this little bit difference between this book and those two. And that is, in those two, we are served with the protagonist in small doses. And so we see those protagonists doing things that are eccentric to us, but we feel that they seem quirky and cutesy. And it is, very often you would find those books being reviewed or being posted on Instagram, for example, with all of these uh, cutesy pastel images. Even though I would say that those characters in those two books also have like really dark things beneath them, just like the character Vivian in Eggshells. But it kind of got me thinking about how we perceive characters who are shown or marketed as quirky, especially in Eggshells. You know, which also has a character is ironically marketed as quirky, but her quirkiness is repeatedly shown to us. We are literally being inundated by her eccentricities that we could find ourselves feeling tired with her. And it reminds me of how those characters in the book also stay away from Vivian because they find her to be tiresome. And it got me thinking, if we are shown this character in small doses, we would be able to tolerate her. But what if we have to deal with her the whole time, having to deal with her, coping with her issues in her own ways that we don't really understand? How would we actually respond to her? And I feel that maybe that's why some readers don't find Eggshells to be a compelling read, because Vivian could be someone who is very tiresome with her with her eccentric personalities. And so I think that says a lot about how we view characters or people who are different. As much as we want to say that we can accept them, because they're just misunderstood, what if you actually live with them? Or in the case of Eggshells, what if you actually read a book with 24 chapters just pretty much talking about them doing all of these things that we might find tiring, So, yeah, I think that Eggshells is pretty strong and is excellently written because of that. It kind of prompts me to think about that, and it balances that light and also that dark sides really well. And I don't think that this video is going to make this book trending. But I would highly suggest you to try this book and see if you like it. I really think that this book deserves more attention than it does right now. And so, yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I'm going to say about this book. If you have read this book, or if you are interested in reading it, feel free to comment down below. And other than that, I'll see you again in a different one. So until then, take care. Thanks for watching. And bye!